Krown's Crypto Cave. Hey, what a morning. It's been an absolutely glorious morning. God gifted me with the most perfect wake-up time of all time as I wake up just as Bitcoin's hitting that $12,100 tick that we spoke about from yesterday. Actually, a little bit higher than what I was looking for. I was looking for 12,000. But I do want to follow up on that as Bitcoin giving both the upside target and then kind of like the monthly retrace. That we also kind of spoke about for all the way down to about 10,500 on all major exchanges, looks like. Anyways, there's plenty to talk about today, but I do want to kind of slow down and speak in a little bit more of a serious tone right now, because there's a lot of people in the program group this morning posting a lot of really inspiring trades and really good stuff. And I want to say directly to you guys, absolutely massively done. I know that, we kind of talked in the program already, but I feel like these things kind of come over better when it's, when you can see like human emotion, man. And I'm just so fucking happy for you guys, seeing the results, playing this like a goddamn professional right there. I mean, that took serious patience and serious planning. And really, to take advantage of that move is not an easy deal. Even for someone who's been doing it for decades, really, that is always going to be a difficult time. But understand that sort of success that you saw right there is just a process. It's just the culmination of a continued process, and you can do that again and again and again if you just follow what you did in those trades. Follow your plan at the end of the day, and that is my main message. Because realistically, when it comes down to trading, when we're talking about technical analysis, when we're talking about mediating trading with technical analysis as your edge, that means that it's just game statistics, and in that case, well, you get rewarded quite plentifully, and that is why we absolutely love Bitcoin. Anyways, I want to get more now into the actual nitty-gritty of Bitcoin. We do see that open interest come down about 300 million from yesterday when we last spoke. I don't know how high it got up in this morning. I actually did not get a chance to check it this morning before that massive, $1,500 dump. But coming down 300 million would suggest that a lot of that was longs taking profits. So I do want to speak more directly towards that a little bit later, but that would be more indicative of long-term health as Bitcoin kind of puts in a nice range here at the macro level. But I do believe that the fun is over for a little bit of time, as Bitcoin's very likely to trade sideways here, probably at least for the next few days, I'd imagine, and just frustrate the shit out of people. We had a very, very beautiful and what's the word that I'm looking for, opportunistic last couple of weeks. And typically how Bitcoin plays is gives you 2 weeks of fun, then a little bit of sideways to keep everyone honest. Anyways, looking at the Bitcoin dominance, we see it. I believe it came down from yesterday. This is not obviously extremely accurate, just because it's from the time that I record my videos between the time that it resets. That obviously changes that dynamic, but I do believe that it was more or less the same from yesterday. Maybe came down a little bit. Fear and greed index ticking up 5 points to an 80 read, the highest that we've been in more than half a year now, and I imagine that's going to go down quite a bit after that last little move. Everything else I think it's better to look at on chart formations. So let's actually get into the analysis right now. We don't have any traditional marks to talk about today, because traditional marks obviously not trading over the weekend, and we don't have any forex to talk about today, so we can do pretty much just full on into Bitcoin and some of the other market leaders in cryptocurrency land. So of course, let's follow up on yesterday's analysis first and foremost. So looking at Bitcoin, let me pull up. I'm gonna do a completely fresh, or actually, do I want to do a fresh chart here? No, we can. I think I have it right here. Yeah, this is a chart that we were looking at yesterday on GDAX, which we said that if Bitcoin got a 2-hour or even like an hourly close above 11,500-ish region, next sort of target that would be driven from that would be somewhere between about 11,900 and 12,000, of which we actually exceeded it by a few points, or sorry, not just a few points, by about $100. It looks like that was like literally right around the time that I was waking up too. I mean, Jesus Christ. Sometimes you just get lucky. That was more so luck on my part, because a lot of the time I'm sleeping during this shit, which is unfortunate, but part of the game, I suppose. Anyways, now while I couldn't have told you that was going to be the big bad $1,500 dump, just seconds later after hitting that target, we were looking for reversals from this area, just because it is born upon major areas from the higher term timeframes, from the macro timeframes. Really looking at the 2-day and even 3-day as well, we do see that this is a nice little pivot point, marking off this liquid zone. and getting respected quite well. So I do believe that Bitcoin's probably going to establish a range here, trade sideways between about 11,000 base and 11.5 or 11.6, whatever this area is right here. I think it's actually cut right to the middle, which does suggest that we're going to go into a little bit of sideways action, consolidate this area, and I would consider that actually rather constructive over the long term if Bitcoin can sit in another base here, which it looks like it's going to give another try towards that. But that also would suggest that the fun times of having these massive girthy green dildos just being thrown down, what seems like every day sometimes, is probably done at least for a couple days here, as we establish a range. Now, of course, for the macro levels, they are still very much relevant. Below 10.5, Bitcoin does have problems for the macro, and I would be looking for a quick move down to like 9.7-ish region, somewhere in this blue box right here, 9.8. But as long as Bitcoin's above there, I do look at it as essentially long-term healthy, and short and medium term are going to whiplash around, I imagine. But long-term and macro would essentially be set in, because remember, the monthly did close rather nicely on 2 days ago. Was it yesterday or 2 days ago? It was on Friday, whatever the fuck Friday was. There you go, 8 p.m. Friday, Eastern Standard Time. So that really sets the tone for the month to come. But I think it was also very, very interesting. And I hate to talk a little bit of shit here, but it's very interesting to see all the very rude and sometimes interesting comments thrown my way by talking about very likely $1,000 dump. After hitting these targets right here. Now I couldn't have told you that was going to happen immediately. That's not technical analysis. That's crystal ball shit. That's not what I'm trying to say that I did. But at the end of the day, it's very humbling. I imagine also for myself to be reminded of the fact that Bitcoin, is playing in big ranges, and having $1,000 move to the downside is really, not all out of that question. And it seems to me like as long as people have not learned the lessons from 2018 through where we are right now to 2020, shit like that's going to be happening. Or shit like that's going to happen, regardless of the fact, just because we're dealing with big numbers here. But shit, people just for whatever reason want to always believe that this is the first time that something new is going to happen. And realistically, if history is anything to go off of, Bitcoin likes to ebb and flow, as do all major trading assets. Everything that I've seen across all major markets, that's coming from traditional markets, that's coming from not equities, obviously traditional, but commodities, forex, and of course cryptocurrencies, fake money, or real money, but you can't use it anywhere. So there you go. Anyways, as it stands right now, let's go down actually to the lower time frames and establish what the range essentially looks like here. And I'd be looking at something like this. Actually, we can probably plot it somewhere in the midst of about. Actually, that does not look right. Hold on, maybe we need to go to a little bit of a higher term time frame. This is the diabolicalness of trying to chart in the midst of a move right here while we are establishing a range. If I did have to call it, it looks like the range would be between about 11.5 to the upside and 11.1 to the downside. Let's see if that matches up with the 4 hour, because that would look about right on the 12 hour. And let's see. Yeah, okay. So yes, we do have that area right there. Nice little bring them up and then shove them back down. It's like we've seen this a million fucking times on Bitcoin. Just a clear liquidation move, getting all the stops below this 10.9 region right here after that last base was built. Classic shit for Bitcoin. And yeah, if I did have to call it right here, I do think that that's actually proper. Maybe I'd err a little bit more generously to the downside, as this would favor an overall healthy consolidation here, as long as we essentially maintain above 10.8, 10.9 especially, but even 10.5 I think is more important for the for the weeklies and whatnot. So you can kind of see me struggle with this area right here, and that's I'm doing this in the moment right now, and realistically I don't have a strong read, and I probably won't have a strong read until we at least get CMEs trading for the regular week, which happens later today at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. But if I did have to call it right now, I'd say the short-term and medium-term range is now going to be stifled down to about 11.5, 11.550. I like that 11.550-ish region just because it was a breakout from yesterday. To the upside, and about 11.1 to the downside. If 11.1 does break to the downside, it's not super problematic from the long term, but it would imply a medium term move to at the very least test around 10.8, 10.9 region in this blue box. At which point I would be looking for another bounce. And then particular interest on the 10.5 region. If that area does get broken on a daily, then yes, I would be looking at this as perhaps one one massive exit scam at that point. Maybe, you know, I want to see it in real time, all jokes aside. But realistically, if 10.5 does break on a daily, especially, or even a 12-hour, I would be looking for, you know, another $1,000 or almost $1,000-ish move down to the 9.7-ish liquid zone right here, at which point I'd be looking for another big bounce, and then we'll come back to it after that. But for right now, like I said, sideways between 11,150 and 11,550, we'll call it, maybe 11.5 if you want to just round off. Is more or less constructive, but I'd be looking for a range to be established here essentially. And if Bitcoin can break back above 11,500, and I really wouldn't use a short-term time frame closure to denote this, or I mean, a 4-hour would be minimum here. Although a 4-hour probably does get it, then I'd be looking for an extension back up to the 11.8 liquid zone right here, the kind of same one that we just sold off from. But I wouldn't really be looking for that to happen like today or tomorrow. I'd give it some time as we're probably going to see a lot of resetting of all the momentum oscillators and trending and trending indicators as well. Looking at historical volatility percentile, it would suggest that we are going to go into a contraction phase. We just got up to quite literally, was this a 100 read? No, it wasn't a 100 read. It was actually a 98.36. This is the highest that we've seen it on a 4-hour. I think since March 2020 on that run up to that move down, a very aggressive move down from 8,000 to 4,000 over the course of like a day or so. So, you know, I think right now is the time to kind of just be watching and you know, if you had a good move right here, it's time to kind of enjoy those gains. If you feel like you got left out, I don't think that FOMOing into any sort of position right here before this next sort of region gets established is a way that I do things. But of course, it's not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor, and more importantly, you know, my main message is now that you know, Bitcoin's kind of had a lot of fun here, and it's probably time to play out some sideways. Looking at 4-hour Stokes, they are coming down rather aggressively and will remain to the downside as long as Bitcoin is below 11.7, so looking rather likely right now. And that would also denote kind of a nice area to be aware of to the upside as well. You know, if Bitcoin were to close back above there on this next 4-hour total closure in 2 hours and 24 minutes, albeit I do think that is rather unlikely, then I would look for another retest of that $12,000 high. Again, I'm not really looking for that, but it would be suggestive. But you know, here's what we're dealing with right now. We do have bearish divergence playing out. Targets have already obviously gotten not just hit but absolutely obliterated, and realistically sideways here again. I do feel quite strongly about that being more or less constructive on the whole. Let's look at the 3-hour as well. I'm curious if these guys agree with each other. Yes, indeed they do. 3 hours showing momentum to the downside as long as we're closing 3-hour dildos below 11,717. Same sort of bearish evidence there, obviously. And I imagine the same thing on the 2-hour. Yes, indeed. Nicely done right there. And in same area, 11.7, a little bit higher, more towards 11.800-ish region. And the hourly, I'm going to imagine, is 11.850. Yeah, so it's actually rising up as we go to a further south time frame. Now, it does look like on the very low time frames like this hourly, like the 2-hour, we probably do come back down and swipe around 10.9 or 11,000. But again, it's all about closures here. I don't care if Bitcoin gets another wick down here. It could actually be a nice little scalp opportunity. Again, not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor, but overall, as long as there's no closures below about 11.1, I don't really see this as problematic in the way that is it really 11.1? It looks different on an hourly. 4-hour would vary. Actually, 4-hour would suggest 10.9 as well. Maybe this range is bigger than what I'm giving it credit for, because I'm saying 11.1 to about 11.550. You know, should I really be including this whole order block right here? It's probably a lot more. It's probably better to err on the side of caution. So you know what, I would actually like to extend that. And again, this is just I do these videos in the moment because I want my ideas to be fresh. I don't watch anything else. You know, I want this to be coming out, you know, as authentic as possible. And so, you know, looking at it right here, is it really 10.9 the area to be aware of to the downside? Probably, yeah. You know, I think that's maybe a little bit more dependable than 11.1, because 11.1, while it does matter for the very short term timeframes, and it could be used to govern a trade between those two ranges, between 11.1 and 10.8, 10.9. I wouldn't be putting too much emphasis on it as far as even like a medium-term time frame move goes. It's more or less akin to a short-term time frame move, because right now, again, we are dealing with big ranges, and so $200 is within the vicinity of a short-term move. Anyways, let's go over and check out the medium-term time frames. How are they lining up right here? 12-hour gets a nice boost down to the 21 exponential moving average, playing out that bearish divergence as well, as we spoke about yesterday, was likely to be building. Today, obviously confirmed, and I mean, I think it would be very relevant to say that we played out most of that move. What is very interesting here, and what I do think is really, really important to kind of harp on for a little bit of time, is how this next 12-hour and by extension the daily closes. If it closes with a wick to the upside like this, that's actually rather good. With a lot of buying, a lot of buying, especially below that last short-term and medium-term zone at 10.9, which would suggest that there is some good demand within this region. Again, overall, I think that it does trade sideways here, but that would be indicative of more, again, long-term health. So we want to see, one thing before the next. As far as momentum oscillators go, we are very likely going to see 12-hour Stokes not just confirm bearish divergence, but also cross down as well. And they will cross down as long. Actually, they might not. Funnily enough, they might not. Was this all just a bullish reset right there? Maybe. 11,375 is the magical number for maintaining 12-hour Stokes to the upside. And even on that last move, historical volatility percentile not getting that crazily high. We still have 6 hours left to go, so let's actually go down to a 6 hour, because we only have 20 minutes left to go on this one. I'm curious how this one operates within the vicinity of what we're looking at. And a nice spike up, but actually not making new highs on historical volatility percentile. Overall, again, what is this suggestive of? Sideways between, let's call it 11.5 and 10.9 is what I feel most confident with. For the more aggressive traders on the short-term time frames, you could probably curtail that down and put like a midpoint in there at 11.1. And while we are here on the 6 hour, I mean, all these charts pretty much look the same from a momentum oscillator perspective. This is why I don't care too much about Stokes during a strong trending move like this, because they're going to make you think that the move is always over. It's actually the RSI that's actually better for these purposes. And right now, Bitcoin's obviously gonna have a chance to make some massive hidden bullish divergence here. Again, if it can put in a low within this region, anywhere above 11,100 would be good, would be efficacious for confirming that. But again, it's going to take time to actually put that in and then play out. So this is really setting up for maybe later this week or perhaps the week after that, which now makes me want to go over to the weekly. Which, let me pull up my weekly chart over here, as I want to follow up on the Trojan bands really quick. Got to remember to talk about this tomorrow. My one of my most prized tools that I've never shared, or I think I've shared it on this channel maybe, but for trading traditional markets, which obviously has massive implications for Bitcoin land as well. McClellan the McClellan index and oscillator, very, 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 very important tools. Anyways, let's focus back on this right here and pulling up the Trojan bands, taking everything else off, and just going to, let's first start off obviously with CMEs. They've already confirmed above the top Trojan band. This is the first time that we've actually seen a confirmation above the top Trojan band with a closure on a weekly since technically February 2020, on a little bit of a fake out here before a quick reversal. But realistically, when we do see this sort of a read, we typically get a strong trending move in that direction. Works both the upside and the downside, as you can see right here and right here. And if we go to spot price action, you'll notice that this has a lot more like far-ranging implications, as you can see all the major runs in Bitcoin's like long-term macro history were essentially governed by the top Trojan band, just lifting it upwards and onwards, guiding my green dildos to the fucking heavens. So, going all the way back to 2013 right here, or even 2012 right here. Again in 2013 right here, just right in the top side band, lovely, and then all the way from 2016 to 2020 essentially, and putting in bases along the 20 simple along the way, which I imagine that we probably do play off that long term. More recently, as we already spoke about on CME's chart in April 2019 on this whole run, and then Bitcoin's gonna have a chance on spot price action to close above the top Trojan band here as well. Guess where the top Trojan band is? 11,400, and this is very, 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 very important right now too, because it would essentially make me open to the possibility of seeing immediate continuation to the upside over this next month, making new highs on this run if Bitcoin can close this weekly above the top Trojan band. It's going to be my main disposition as far as this price action goes, and with CME's already confirming that on Friday with its closure, it would suggest that we probably do come back down and test that top side Trojan band, which by the way Funnily enough, guess where it's at? It's at 11,400. If Bitcoin can do it on spot as well, it'll just add on to the confluence, suggesting that this run overall on the macro scale, not on the micro scale, but on the macro scale, long term over the next few months, very likely does continue on to the upside. And by the way, this is also coming along the side of a very likely, wrong chart over here. This is also coming along the side, very, very likely of a weekly confirmed cross back up to the upside on weekly Stokes. That will happen, by the way, if Bitcoin closes above 11,233. So what's very interesting about that is that using those two to play together, using both the weekly momentum from Stokes and also just looking at weekly Bollinger Bands, which is kind of an interplay between volatility and how do I even explain that? I don't know how to explain that one in the moment, to be honest with you. Probably not the best person to explain that one either. Alongside also weekly RSI getting back into the bullish control zone for the first time since, guess when? April 2019, and also all the way out through 2016 run as well. All would suggest that this run is, on the macro scale, not done yet. And I do believe that that is further verified and more importantly, further enhanced by the monthly close, which we already have confirmed on Friday. We have the second highest monthly closing price in Bitcoin's history, and most importantly, this is above the last major swing high in June 2019 on that failed rally to 14,000. So this is a change of behavior, which is also further enhanced by the momentum oscillator reads. We see monthly Stokes rejecting the bearish control zone and propping back up. Let me just make sure that I'm recording. Okay, I am recording. That's great, because I really didn't want to record all of that bullshit. Jesus Christ, man. Monthly RSI looks like a little bit of accumulation right here and blast off, especially as long as it's above the 58 read, which even the exponential is going to be getting above there probably in the next month to tick. And I think that's it as far as that goes. So all those things playing together with each other does make me still err on the side of seeing overall continuation from this region. But again, short term, medium term, very likely sideways, depending upon how we close this weekly later today at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, is going to drive my bias to whether we see continuation sooner rather than later, essentially, with a clear failure point below 10.5. 10.5 is like the big red flag. 10.9 is like a small red flag, not super critical, but would be a big warning. 10.5 is that's where I look at this is all just, likely to come back down, probably even towards, at least 90, 96, 9,700, but probably towards, lower 8,000s, upper 7,000s. But for right now, obviously that's well and far away. I'm not leaning towards that happening. Just describing what I'd be looking for in order to, in order to kind of have that as my main disposition, I suppose. Anyways, okay, cool. So what else do we want to talk about while we're here? I suppose we can go back to this chart for a second. Long day of trading left to go, 18 hours and 13 minutes. So, a lot can happen here, but again, the weekly closure is absolutely important. And what's also very interesting about this, actually playing into this just a little bit more, keeping in mind that the top Bollinger Band, by the way, is at 11,400. We already have that confirmed even above on CMEs, and we all see momentum oscillators turning up on all these time frames, which, I need to go into this explanation more too. Okay. One thing before the next. All right, so we'll go this route first. Actually, I'll take a little bit of an audible here, and we'll talk about the weekly RSI. The weekly RSI is also very, 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 very encouraging for Bitcoin long term. We're talking about a weekly here, not a fucking hourly. Jesus Christ. But anytime the weekly RSI has gotten into the bullish control zone, what you see right here in April 2019, for example, that is when these big massive moves typically do really get aggressive. And what do I mean by that? Well, let's just go back in time. When was April 2019? That was actually coming out of this base right here, which was very, very similar to what we're seeing kind of right now, in the sense that Bitcoin had I'm going to pull up a fresh chart once again. Bitcoin had an ascending triangle being printed on the low right here. Everyone was bearish, myself included. And then my sort of critical area for changing around that was this $4,000 200 exponential moving average right here, and then everyone wanted to short this area right here. No, that was actually the point of continuation. And guess what? The RSI told you, getting back into the bullish control zone. Weekly Stokes were telling you by getting into the critical zone, which is actually typically when it does these massive moves as well. And that was amongst other things as well, of which we saw in the monthly, but I don't think it's really relevant to talk about right now. Anyways, my point is that, what do we have over here? Well, we do have, of course, a nice ascending triangle, probably better seen on like maybe like a daily, over the course of about 3 months from May to July, or really August. And then, same thing over here, 3 months from December to March, April, and then the run gets started as all these kind of work together. And to me, that is very, 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 very indicative that, what's more likely to happen here, if we, assuming that we confirm all these things, I would be looking for overall continuation on the macro scale. Not to say that that happens today or tomorrow, but overall. And going back a little bit further than that, guess what? Guess what? I can't speak fucking English, so I don't know. Feel free to regale me in the comments. Anyways, looking at this area right here, going back to 2015, 2016, crawling out of the last or two bear markets ago in 2014, 2015. When does Bitcoin turn the corner? Well, you see the weekly RSI. Hey, fuck off. Jesus Christ, man. Sorry about that. My autistic rage is coming out right now. But this happened in October 2015. That was quite literally when the actual weekly trend was bucked right here, coming off the 2013, 2014 highs, which then led up for the next, 3 years straight to the upside. So, while I'm not necessarily suggesting that we're going to have like a 3-year trend to the upside, this one over here was only like 2-3 months, I imagine, to the upside. But overall, it would be suggestive that we do see, this Bitcoin put in some sort of a base right here, and then probably rally off that long term while resetting some of the oscillators along the way. Looking at weekly Joule, it's almost giving a continuation haltier long signal, not super perfect or anything like that, but also coming along a bounce off of the major fib right there too. So I like those things in confluence with each other. And yeah, here's the next thing, and perhaps the most important thing, as far as all that goes. Remember this area right here. Sorry, let's delete this whole chart once again. This area right here between 11.5 and we'll call it like 11.8. I guess it's more like 12. Well, I'm looking at Finex, so it does have a natural premium. It's usually actually right now it's trading at a discount, funnily enough, but we do see typically premiums on it of like $50 to $100, especially during these times as well. And in that zone, this is, of course, not just relevant from all those momentum oscillators and trending indicators suggesting that is a major point to be aware of, but also just from a historical area, we can go all the way back to January 2018, of which the last 3 years has been selling off within this region. Which again, I'll explain this concept one more time, and then I think that this is the last time because it's too fucking long, and probably people already know this, but this is indicative of institutional order flow dynamics, which essentially suggests that the big bad mean institutions are selling in this region. And that's to be true because you see the price action that you'd expect from that, where Bitcoin tests into it very, very abruptly and then extremely fast moves away from it, giving you no chance to kind of get out of those get out of those positions, which would also suggest that if Bitcoin can get it back above this level, if Bitcoin can actually exceed and close a weekly dildo, especially above the top side of this blue box, but even above 11,500 or 11, whatever this last closing high was right here, then we have a change of behavior on the macro scale as well, not just verified by all of the other things that we've looked at, but also now price action following through as well, which is perhaps the most important one because that's what makes up your P&L, right? Anyways, all these things working together right now does more or less suggest that Bitcoin will have a chance here. Is it confirmed just yet? No. Is it in the cards? Absolutely yes. If we look at CMEs, has it already been confirmed? I would argue no, it has not been confirmed actually on CMEs just yet. The 786 is actually where we closed just underneath it, and that's where I'd be looking for. This is actually a bearish retracement right here, but it will give us Fibonacci targets, Fibonacci extensions, if this does if this does play through. So that's actually why I did a bearish retracement right there, even though you could do it both ways, and it still kind of makes sense. And it would make sense if you actually understand how these things fucking work. But for the people who just like read the straight up numbers, then obviously it's it's not gonna have the same implications. I get that. But where was I going with this? We also see volume increasing on this run as well. I mean, this is indicative that it's probably gonna break. And I've been showing this for the last few days as well. And seeing as we are in the crypto nerd session of this video, might as well bring it up once again. Oh, and it looks like did I get rid of it? Oh, no, it's right here. Yeah. I do look at this as very likely an inverted head and shoulders, kind of a sloppy one with a double left shoulder, but that's fine. And a very shallow right shoulder that actually is indicative of strength. It depends how you chart this one. Do you have the neckline at 10.7 as I do? Then it's already broken. Some people more aggressively are going to have it at about 10.1, which you could argue, and I would say that's it's technically it would technically be you could make a good argument for it. It's just I feel more confident on this one right here, and this would be driving targets up towards the $14,000 region and $15,000 region, which is very interesting as well because we go back to this chart. Same one that we were following. Now I remember where I was going with this. We can also kind of verify the relevancy of that 11,500-ish region by the volume profile, of which it completely drops off the face of the fucking earth after this 11,500 node right here, which is not even a high value node to begin with, but it gets even thinner above that region, which suggests that if you think Bitcoin's volatile right now, dumping off 1,000, 1,500 points in basically like 10 minutes, then it's going to get even more so. And that makes sense naturally because, we're going to be dealing with bigger numbers if Bitcoin does exceed those levels. And, you can kind of drive the next few set of targets, I suppose, on the macro. 13.5 to 14,000 would be an area of interest, 16,000 would be an area of interest, and then 20,000 obviously as well. But it's kind of inconsequential. The big hurdle is where we are right now, in my opinion, and it would just set my long-term macro bias. I don't like saying I don't want to say it. I don't want to say it. It's not for me to say. It's for you to kind of draw your own conclusions. I'm just sharing my opinion on the market right now. That's all. But you know where I'm going with that. Okay, so we don't need to look at traditional markets, even though they all look pretty much the same. We can go look at some more cryptos, of which I think Mr. Buteau would be a good one to check out today. We did say that there is a target to, I think, low 400s. Let's see if that one got hit alongside Bitcoin hitting its macro target. And holy shit, it did. Hey, nice one. I don't even trade this highly efficacious piece of technology. 423, I believe it said 420, mostly because it's a great number, but also coming in from that liquid zone from the last major breakdown of the last switch up, the official switch up from bear market to bull market below 400 essentially. So, a very classic area to sell off of. I imagine that it establishes a range between about 330 and that 420-ish level, and putting in time there would be more or less good over the long term. Now, there are a few other things to be aware of right here. Golden Cross on the weekly did happen relatively recently, and also printing new highs, clearly new highs on a wick basis above the June 2019 highs. Now, I would like to see a closing new high as well. Anything above 330 is good. For the long term, but kind of the same thing as Bitcoin. It's been having a lot of fun the last few weeks. I'd be looking for a range to be established between about, basically between the areas that I just spoke about. But on the short term, how would that look? Short terms, I don't want to look at this. Fuck that, man. It's too crazy here. This one's not for me, man. You can enjoy, but not for me. Not my game. It's just this one could have a range between like fucking 3, even on like a 4-hour closure. This is just insanity. Between like 345 and 390 on a fucking $350 number. That's Jesus Christ. Oh my God. That's like a 13% range on a 4-hour dildo. That's absurd. That's absurd. I don't want any piece of that. Bitcoin's enough, especially on leverage. That's just ridiculous. But hey, shout out to all the people making shit tons of money on Mr. Buteau as well. But I'd be paying special attention to this weekly closure. Again, same sort of thing here. I do think it's more or less a formality at this point because the monthly already had and confirmed a very lovely closure, closing above new monthly highs. On new monthly highs above June 2019, and realistically, while we did hit the 420, this one almost looks like 430 target right there. But 420 target right here, I would be looking for some sideways, and over the next couple weeks, probably does get another try to the upside, assuming that it does set in a nice base, and more importantly, does not break below the critical level, which I would be saying is more or less low 300s. I'm going to go with 320, maybe even a little bit lower than that, but right now, I'm sure a lot of people are going to short this just based off the fact that it is one massive long-legged Doge dildo. But I mean, I just feel like we've seen this a lot of time. And by the way, there's technically not even bearish divergence on the daily just yet, which is very very enlightening. In fact, I want to go check out Bitcoin and see if it had bearish divergence. No, actually no bearish divergence on the daily here. So sideways, and probably does get another chance to go back up and then put in some bearish divergence, and then and then we have a nice high for a while, and we get to play the sideways consolidation boring game over a long period of time, kind of like what we just did over here. But just trying to fit all the pieces of the puzzle together, as these are pretty damn exciting times, and overall, I think that's. Is that the extent of what I want to say today? I feel like I'm actually running out of things right now, funnily enough, and this video is not even an hour long. Let's go over here to the, no. Oh, whoa. We are not fucking done, baby. Let's go over to the bi-weekly and triple weekly, which I think are closing today, actually. Yeah, bi-weekly closes today, yes. And the bi-weekly is going to also have a chance to close above above the June 2019 highs. The critical number is, again, 11,500. I like the confluence between those two things. Bi-weekly RSI looking very good here as well. I'd be looking for it to tick into the bullish controls and at least test there, which would imply that we do have another try higher overall. This is on a bi-weekly though, so take some time. Bi-weekly Stokes heading up as well. Don't really have too much to be making off of that though, and other than that I don't really have anything else. Oh yes, we do have one other thing. The 10 simple and the 20 exponential moving average are about to get a bullish cross here as well. It does actually work rather well on this time frame. The problem is though is that when you are using these ones, you really have to kind of draw almost a regression for these in a sense, or like put a more smooth moving average on it, so that you don't get these fake outs within these very choppy and nasty consolidation ranges on the macro. But overall, when you do get this, it's kind of like a string being pulled straight, right? And so at the end of the day, a rubber band where it's building up energy essentially, and the more that it spends closer together means that it builds up more and more of a bigger case when it actually does break out. So it will have a chance to actually get the first bullish cross here for quite some time, since actually June 2019 as well. This one actually did kind of mark the end of that rally, so fair enough. This one obviously a lot different though, because price action was much further away from the cross. And if you're in the TA program, reference the EMA module in that one, as the same sort of knowledge does apply. But what we have going on right here is actually a lot more akin to what we had going on in 2015, 2016, where Bitcoin, spent a lot of time kind of floundering around on the lows, and then once it actually did pull through, and we see just even the smallest bit of divergence between the 10 simple and the 21 exponential moving average, Bitcoin just rides a 10 simple the whole way through after that. So I would be looking for these to first confirm, and then I'd be looking for the 10 simple to become a macro area to be basing off of for the long term, which essentially is just the weekly 20 simple moving average anyways, which by the way, that's what we were looking at on the median Bollinger Band right here, which essentially was what Bitcoin has been using for the last few major bull markets to base off of, all the way through here and all the way not only got a couple tests right here and also during this run in 2012 as well. So all these things working together does make me rather excited, but still, have to play the game more conservatively now on the shorter term timeframes. Now that we've kind of had the majority of the fun for now. Looking at the triple weekly, I'm just curious if it closed today. It does close today. So we have the weekly, bi-weekly, and triple weekly all closing at the same time. We're gonna have a chance to close above new highs on this one as well. And by the way, this one's even more important because it's a higher term time frame. And what's interesting about this one is that the resolution point for doing something new, change of behavior, confirming a change of behavior, is lower than the other than the other time frames. It's actually a little bit more generous, all the way down to 10,950. I'm curious what this level is right here. This one's still 10,400. So how conservative do you want to be? I think just closing above this high is good enough anyways. And then same thing on our momentum also, does they have more space as triple weekly Stokes, plenty of room there. And more importantly, gaining momentum, and will remain to the upside. Obviously, I mean, as long as we close this above 5,762, I was gonna say we've all seen crazy things. I don't know about that crazy. If in 17 hours and 57 minutes, if we've seen an actual move that goes down. I'm just curious for my own knowledge. 50%. Actually, no, there is one time. There actually is one time, and I'll show you right now. Do you want to get crazy with me? Let's get fucking crazy. For anyone who was around in 2017, 2018, early times, no, not early times for Bitcoin, but like the early 2018 is what I mean. Do you remember this? Do you remember this? Look at this inconsequential dildo right here. Do you remember what this was? Do you remember what this fucking was? I do. Oh, I fucking have this one burned in my goddamn memory. And I'll tell you exactly what happened on this fucking dildo right here over the course of just one fucking day and really just a few fucking hours. And guess what happens right here, baby? Oh, man. Down fucking $4,000 in 4 hours. Let that sink in. It was actually only 26.25% though, moved to the downside respectively. So this would actually double that on a percentage basis, but from a dollar point basis, well, it actually put us right around there. It's kind of funny. I don't think that that's happening though, to be like really clear. Crazy times, man. Crazy times. Just making sure everything's good on my other screen. It looks like it is. So that's cool. Okay. Do we want to look at some of the other shitcoins? Why not? I mean, these great pieces of technology that, you know, are great. And, oh, Ripple's rallying. Holy shit. Look at that. Oh my God. Is that just not the lower high in the macro? It is. So while everything else is making, or kind of changing around the long term, that actually was, did we have a target up there is a real question. The 200 simple is always going to be of interest. I don't know. I don't think that we've actually even been looking at this. I do think that this one's putting in a high here and we'll trade back down to 23.5, 24 cents. Let's see. What else do we have? What about Monero? Did Monero hit the $90 target? Yes. Hey, not bad. 92, exceeding it a little bit. But again, you know, marking lower highs here at the same time would speak towards its long-term health as not as strong as Bitcoin. Then again, if it closes above the 200 simple on the weekly, it's going to pull through. Same thing for Ripple as well. You know, a rising tide lifts all ships, as I'm sure most people already know. And if Ripple can do that, if Ripple can even close just on new weekly highs at 30 cents, I'd be looking for extension to $0.50 over the coming months. What about? Do we want to even look at that? Nah, I'm not looking at that bullshit. Jesus Christ. What about Cardano? Massive dump. Did we hit our 1,000 Satoshi target? Nope, but we still got time. 1150, I think, is good enough. I'd be looking for this one to come back down. And again, what is this marking off? It's another macro lower fucking high. I mean, assuming that this weekly dildo closes anywhere below 1350, it will be confirmed as another macro lower high, and then we have big problems here. Major, phenomenal, absolutely astronomical hidden bearish divergence between this point and this point, a little bit far away, admittedly, and then weekly Stochs crossing down at the same time. And just overall looking like it wants to come down here, losing the exponential on the weekly RSI too. You know, probably going to bounce off this area at like 1050 or 1100. I'd look for it to trade sideways and then probably work its way lower, back down towards the 800 Satoshi region and beyond, you know, over the next few months. What about Link? Is Link going to save this market? Hey, nice. We did play out the retest of the bottom side of the current liquid zone. Yes. And now I'd actually be looking for it to put in a base here and pop back up towards 75 or even 80,000 Satoshis. As long as it's living above this liquid zone base, which is 63,500 Satoshis, I actually do look at it as more or less long-term fine. We're going to see daily Stochs turn up here. We're going to see daily RSI probably put in some sort of divergence play as well. Whoops, wrong thingy. But we have redlined the historical volatility percentile read once again, which would suggest that we're going to go into a little bit of a contraction phase. And a contraction phase on a support is very likely to, well, is in this case, more likely to have continuation on the overall trend, which in this case is to the upside, obviously. So Link, you know, still could pull through, but I'd be looking for it to establish that range, play out some more sideways, and then give some tries. Let's see. I haven't really spoken. You know, we spoke a lot about volatility, but I don't know if we spoke about everything that I wanted to speak about on volatility. Now I'll leave that for tomorrow. We got to leave some for tomorrow. I do think that it is interesting that we are still kind of playing out this regression right here. Or actually, no, we're not really. Even if I'm if I'm very lenient with this, does it still work? No. I'd have to see today's daily closure, because this can still float around. But if this does come back down below the regression, then I would be looking at this as likely playing out a longer term contraction phase, which has a resolution around November to December this year, which would suggest that the macro level, which is kind of where we are right now, probably gets resolved around that time. But I want to see today's daily closure first. Okay, cool. What else do we want to talk about? I think I've spoken enough now. Got to save some shit for tomorrow too, and I am hungry AF. So, we forgot to talk about expected moves. All right, let's go back down here. Let's plot out the short-term time frame ranges, of which I'm going to be sticking with this one. 10.9 to the downside is relevant for the medium term. 10.5 long term. 11.1. Let me just make sure. 11.150 actually relevant for the short term, and then to the upside, it's difficult here. I don't feel all that confident with the upside area. I would exercise extreme caution to the upside, just because I do think that it's more likely that Bitcoin consolidates below 12,000 for a little bit of time before giving a legitimate try up. But if I had to call it right now, I'd be looking at a 4-hour dildo closure at 11.550, the same breakout area of yesterday, and that would drive likely another target back up to the 11.8 or 11.8 $12,000 liquid zone right here. At which point, if Bitcoin can actually close above there on a daily, I mean, if today's daily just flips around completely and goes above there, then I would be looking for extension to, well, should we even talk about it right now? Is it even relevant? I don't know. Probably like 12.5 short term. If that were to happen, I don't think that that's happening today, but hey, fair enough. Always have to have a plan for what price action can do, because if you live long enough, you'll find out that price action can do absolutely anything. So let's go look at the probabilities with these ranges. So we'll do 11.550. We'll keep it on current, and we'll do to the downside 11.150. Remember, to the downside, this is only relevant for the short term. It would drive a target down to 10.8, 10.9 region. So a $200, $300 trade is I think that's very much tradable. To the upside, a little bit more diabolical. I do not feel that confident with this, and I probably would not be taking trades off it myself, but it would very likely drive another test back up to 11.8 to 12,000-ish region if that were to happen. And let's see what the probabilities are on the next daily total closure. Wow. Holy fuck, wow. Holy actual shit, wow. What the fuck, wow. ShamWow. No. 69, great number, spot 57%, probability close above 11,550. Was this all just a farce and we're getting ready to blast off to the fucking moon? Maybe. 11,150, just over 9%, by contrast. Now, let's actually extend this and be a little bit more crazy with it. I'm going to do 12,000 with the upside, and then for the downside, we'll take the long-term range at 10.5. And that would show almost less than 1/3% chance to the downside below 10.5 on this next daily closure, and 35.41% chance to the upside above 12,000 today. That's actually very high, like very, very high. Let's go with the medium-term time frame range and go 10.8 to the downside. And to the upside, we'll just keep it steady there. Even 10.8 showing just under 2% probability. So, wow, that's rather enlightening. So yeah, what I'm looking for right now is sideways between about 11.5 and 10.8, 10.9, mediated by the short-term range of 11.150, a 2-hour or 4-hour dildo closure below there, and I'd look for another swipe of 10.8, 10.9 lows. But I'd probably be looking for a bounce there. If this area does break, I'd drive that target down to 10.5. The long-term area, that's the one that is rather problematic and would likely drive another $1,000 move-ish to the downside at like 9.7, 9.8 region. Fill the CME gap as well, down in that territory for all the gap boys. For the upside, I guess if I had to say some, 11.550 on a 2-hour or 4-hour little closure probably drives another target back up to like 11.8, 11.9 region. Other than that, I'm going to be signing off now. I'm going to go hopefully try to enjoy a relaxing day, as this week has been very much intense, very nice as well. Don't get me wrong, but if there's one thing that I've learned, relaxation is very important after a nice week. So with that said, I'd like to wish everyone well and sincerely well, and I'll be back on tomorrow. Until next time, take care.